Hi, my name is Fred Ndavi. I'm the founder of Inspire Spaces, and I'm here today with Inuka Leadership. It's such a joy to join them and even just to see the passion and the intentionality that they have for the work that they do. Um, as we look at our world today, and especially our continent and our country, Kenya, one of the things that calls us and even calls us to a point of stopping or even to pause is how do we move forward with the challenges that we're facing with such a huge youth unemployment, and even the questions around education, and there's so many other social issues that we're facing today. Partly for me and some of my friends, as we sit around the table, as we drink coffee, as we travel, one of the questions that we are always wrestling with is how do we contribute, to the social redemption of our country, but also our communities and our people. One of the things I would like to talk about real quick is about youth and leadership. And this is centered around education. If we don't build systems and education systems, that are forward-looking, that are asking the questions about, the leaders of tomorrow, then we know far too well that, we'll continue to have the gaps that have existed in the last generations. One of the challenges that we see with our education system, as much as it's trying to move the needle, is the question of how do we educate young people to, change our society, but even to live, things better than they found them. I think the question that we have to pause and ask ourselves is, are we doing enough? Are we doing enough to raise a generation of young leaders that are looking at the future and saying we can be far more redemptive than the previous generation? We ask young people just to look at power as something to be desired and not to be understood, something to be abused and not to be, sought in a redemptive way. Because I think if we're really raising a generation that is going to change and that is going to have an impact in our communities, then we must ask the question of power. How does power change and even restore communities, to do good and even to a good place? And I think for me, one of the things that I'm so driven to is, beginning to have an impact on young people around this question of power, redemptive power, and saying that we don't have to demonstrate how strong and good we are, but we can use our strength and we can use, our talents, and we can use our desire, by demonstrating our power through other people, by leaving other people better than we found them, impacting the community in a more redemptive way than we found it. And the other question for us is, why should we do these things? Why is it that we should get involved, in redeeming the systems as they are today? Why is it that it's so necessary for us to participate? If we don't, who will? If we don't build the roads, who will? If we don't change the schools, who will? If we don't vote well, who will? And if we expect change to come, then who will bring it? And I think that question then begs for us to look at our country, to look at our people, to look at our families, and ask the question, then who will do the change? I think for me, having both lived in this country and lived away from this country for a considerable amount of time, is always to look back home and say, what is it that I got from the place that I came from that makes me who I am? And what can I do to make sure that I can contribute, in making that place better than I, left it? And I think I have a long way to go. And even for a lot of young people, I know sometimes you look around the places that you live, the communities that you come from, and you feel like there's just too much to be done and you don't think you can do anything. But I would challenge you, as I've always challenged myself, being away from this country. If I don't do it, who will? And so I look forward to the next time as we continue to engage in the conversations of leadership, youth, even politics, and social change in our country, and to continue to ask these questions, but more than the questions, to continue to find ways to implement the change that is needed to make this country a better place. Thank you.